Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Synergy Podcast. My name is Abdul Majid, and I'll be your host for today. So today we are moving from politics and governance, and we are moving to talk about social development in Tamale. We are going to be talking about one of the most pressing issues now we are facing in Tamale, and this has to do with the problem of potable water supply in Tamale and this neighboring environs. So the issue of water supply in Tamale is a very pressing issue, but it's multifaceted. It stems from a whole lot of problems. It stems from different issues. We have production capacity vis-a-vis the population of Tamale. Then we also have institutional failures and inefficiencies. This issue particularly, I'll say, I'll not blame one person. I'm going to put the blame on a lot of people. That is leadership. And when I say leadership, I don't just mean members of parliament. I mean everyone, from members of parliament, government appointees. Yes, because if you look from 2017, we had the MD of the Ghana Water Company being someone from this part of the country. We have had a former vice president being from this part of the country. We have had a finance minister being from this part of the country. So this particular issue, I think, goes beyond just MPs. I think leadership, politicians, opinion leaders, government appointees, all of them, I think they have a hand to blame in this issue not being resolved in the last 8 to 10 years. So even though we can all accept that, we can all admit that the majority of Tamale faces this crisis, but then there are some parts of Tamale that are better off than others. So if you take from Malshao, then Katarga, Gurgun, Chogun, I think Swana, Yili, and some areas around Tipole, their situation is actually way better. And this as a result of, geography and their positioning. So if you look at those areas, they are directly in the line of the pipeline that is coming from the water treatment plant at Dalom. So this gives them an advantage. In fact, just last week I was talking to a colleague of mine, and he told me that look, their tap flows, and he stays at Gurgun. He told me their tap flows like at least in a week they can have their tap flowing for like 3 or 4 days, and it's actually better because if you look at most of us that stay around the southern parts of Tamale. So if you take Vitin, Bewa Residential, Kukuo, Sanjirgu, Target, Tua, then you take Banvom, Belpela, Lamashegu, all the way to Dungu, Dato, Yili. Our situation is very dire. In fact, I stay at Bewa Residential area, and I've been staying there since 2020. And the whole time I've been there, that's about 5 years, our tap has flown for like less than 10 times. I mean, I can count on one hand the number of times water has flown through my tap. And if you look at that particular area, there are a lot of senior high schools around there. Take Vitin, for instance. We have Vitin Senior High. We have Ghana School. Then we have Dabupa. Then if you go to Dungu, there's the UDS campus there. The situation there is very terrible. It's very terrible. In fact, sometimes I just leave the house, I'm going out, then you see students from Vitin Senior High. They are carrying buckets and gallons to the Ghana School dam to fetch water. Guys, this is 2025. We shouldn't be facing some of these challenges now. If you look at the Western world and even some parts of Africa, they are doing better, and we are still struggling with issues of, basic things like water supply. So this is one thing that I think that it should be solved immediately, like not something that we should wait for another 3 or 4 years. It's something that should be looked into. So I'm actually going to give a historical background of this particular the water supply issue in Tamale. So the water supply treatment plant in Tamale was done in 1972. That was about 53 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. When this was done, the whole project was to produce about 13,000 cubic meters of water per day. And this was done to complement the population of Tamale at that time. So imagine the population of Tamale 50 years ago, and this particular production then was at 13,000 cubic meters. And ladies and gentlemen, mind you, having noticed that, look, Tamale is fast growing. Tamale happens to be one of the fastest growing cities in Ghana. So having noticed that the situation, the population has outgrown their production, there was a major expansion done in 2008 that raised their production from 13,000 to about 45,000 cubic meters per day. So in 1972, the production was 13,000 cubic meters. Then in 2008, they increased it to about 45,000 cubic meters per day to supply the population of Tamale. Also, during that time, they realized that, look, from Dalong all the way to Tamale, it's a very long distance. And if you look at, in 1972, definitely Tamale hadn't grown to these levels. There are certain areas now that were not there in 1972. So having noticed how well Tamale has grown, they decided to come up with what they call booster stations. So what the booster stations do is that when water is pumped, after the water has been cleaned and pumped from Dalong, they pump it to some of these booster stations. And pumping it, after the water has been pumped, after it has been cleaned, they have pumps. And these pumps have certain parameters and capacities. That has to do with distance and also their height. So let's say there's a certain distance a particular pump can pump up to. When it gets to that distance, the pressure will go down. So definitely it won't get to certain places. So what they did is that they came up with booster stations. So when the water is pumped to these booster stations, they are positioned at strategic locations. When it gets there, the booster stations will store the water, then add more pressure to it so it can get to certain places too. So for instance, there's a booster station at Baga Baga, then there is one at Kaladan, and there are some other ones too. So when the water gets to these booster stations, for example, when it gets to Kaladan, they can now store and pump the water to some of the locations around Tamale. Then they pump to Kaladan too. Then Kaladan receives the water, then adds more pressure to it and pumps to some of the places in Tamale. And even with this, the situation is still critical because the distance is still there, and some areas in Tamale that are at the extremes cannot get the water. So in 2008, they increased the expansion and they came up with the booster stations. Fast forward 2020, they realized that, look, Tamale is rapidly growing. Tamale is growing more and more and more. So the government at that time decided to come up with a new water project. That was in 2020. The new water project was supposed to supply Tamale with about 130,000 cubic meters of water in a day. And this is so sweet. That's if it was done. And mind you, 2020 was an election year. So they did this and they came up with another water project in Yendi too. So 2 water supply projects, Tamale and Yendi. And ladies and gentlemen, it's 2025 and there is no single fiscal construction that has been done. And as I said already, 2020 was an election year. So your guess is as good as mine as what happened. We were finessed by the Akufo-Addo administration because from 2020 till now, nothing has been done. And this is where I say we have been failed by leadership, MPs, DCs, and everyone that is an opinion leader in Tamale. I think they did not prioritize this particular issue. Because if the president has cut short for a project and there are issues with financing, I think as a matter of fact, if we had made this a priority, I think the government of the day would have also treated it as such and made sure we got it. Because if you say there's no money, yes, after 2020 there were some issues. 2022 we were going through certain financial issues, but then there was still money for government to spend. For God's sake, our president was flying on 13,000 per hour private jets around the world. If we prioritize this issue, I think they would have done something about it. So 130,000 cubic meters of water we were supposed to get, we did not get it. And like I said, we had a vice president from here. As for him, I'm not even surprised. Even the road to his hometown, the contractor ran away with $30 million and nothing was done about it. So as for him, I'm not even surprised. But we had an MD, the MD for Ghana Water Company from 2017 to 2024, that's just last year, was from this part of the country, Dr. Clifford Brymer. I'm sure if they really wanted to address this particular issue, they made this a priority, they would have. In fact, 2024, I think from around February, we had a finance minister too, who was from this particular country. I think they could have made this particular issue a priority. They could have made it an issue for the government to solve. I'm talking of water, let me drink water. So yeah, this particular issue was something that I think all politicians, all opinion leaders should have come together. Look, put your political colors aside, come together, the Northern Caucus in Parliament, government appointees from this side, make this a priority for the president to listen to you. Make this something that, look, don't even make the man sleep, don't let the old man sleep, be on his neck with this, because you can say there was no money, but they were spending money on other projects that were going on. Look, they took millions of money to finance projects in Accra and other parts of the country. If we really wanted this issue to be solved, I think our opinion leaders and our politicians from this part of the country would have made it a priority. So, God being so wonderful, we have a new captain in town. We have a new captain in charge, and he has spoken about this a lot. I mean, when I say captain, I'm not talking about Harry Kane or Bruno Fernandes or Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm talking of His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, the president of the country. Yes, this particular issue, he has talked about it. In fact, immediately after he was sworn in, he came to the northern region and he visited the Yana, and he mentioned that hopefully, God willing, by the time after his tenure, when he comes to say goodbye to the Yana, this particular issue of water will be solved, and not just Tamale, Yendi too. In fact, in the last in his meeting with the media houses, that was I think last month, this question was asked by one Bawa Abdul Mugis, a journalist from Tamale, and the president emphasized on it again. And I mean, he spoke about it, and he said Tamale, Damango, and Yendi water projects is something that his government is actually looking to. In fact, he mentioned that funds is going to be funded. Tamale and Damango will be funded by it's going to be an EU project, and funding will come from EU. But then again, this is why I say our people must set up. He mentioned that right now the only constraint is that since it's an EU project, and because we are still at IMF, we have a spending cap for external credit that's about $250 to $300 million. So again, I plead with our members of parliament and politicians and opinion leaders and everyone. The funding is made available, but there are some constraints. Don't just sit down, fold your arms and say, oh, because the president has said they are going to do it, then we are just going to wait, it's going to be done. No, we should make it a priority. Whatever spendings they are going to do with external credit, we should make sure that this particular issue is part of it. They shouldn't rest until we start seeing physical construction works being done. Because if we are going to wait for another 2 or 3 years, the situation is becoming worse and worse each and every day. As the day goes by, this is becoming serious. Senior high schools are struggling. If you go to Tamale campus, for instance, it's too bad. It's too bad. And we are in Tamale, for God's sake. We shouldn't be struggling with basic issues like this. So, the Yendi Water Project 2, the president mentioned that it's going to be captured under the Big Push. So, there's sustainable financing, because Big Push projects are going to be financed with oil and gold revenues. And our finance minister in November will be reading the next budget. So what we have to do is that we have to make sure that, or we have to hope that this one is going to be captured under the next project that will be under the Big Push, because currently the projects for this year have started already and it wasn't part. So we have to hope and pray. And when I say hope and pray, I mean our leaders must not fold their arms and sit down. They have to lobby very well for this particular issue to be solved. Not just Tamale, Yendi too, and possibly Damango too. In fact, during the funeral of the late Honorable Mohammed Mutala, may Allah bless his soul, Honorable Haruna Idrisu mentioned that one of the last conversations he had with him was about the Tamale water issues. In fact, he mentioned that he had just landed from, I think he traveled abroad, he had just come back and they were on a phone call, and he told him that this is time for them to solve the problem. It's time. They shouldn't wait any longer. They have to address this issue immediately. So we are hoping that our leadership, our leaders from Tamale or from the northern region will prioritize this particular issue. Now again, I come to, I've mentioned how I think government appointees and members of parliament have failed us with regards to this particular issue. But then another issue has to do with our district assemblies, our MMDs. Development of most of development solely, it lies at the feet of our district assemblies and our MMDs, because every year huge chunks of money are being allocated to them. 2 billion Ghana cedis every year, 2 billion Ghana cedis, 3 billion, 4 billion, and they are all allocated to our district assembly common funds. But we hardly see what they are doing. In fact, this year alone, about 7 billion Ghana cedis was allocated into the district assembly common fund. That's, if I'm not mistaken, 7 billion. Yes. What have they been doing? In the interim, what are they doing to at least reduce the suffering of the people? Because even though the Tamale Water Project is a central government project, it's something central government must solve because of how big the problem is going to be, or the project is going to be. It can't be funded by district assemblies unless the central government intervenes. So what have they been doing in the interim? Like basically nothing. And here is where I think that they could have done better. In fact, I believe that they could have done feasibility studies in most of these places around Tamale and come up with just sink boreholes around. If you do the feasibility studies and the place is suitable for a borehole, sink the borehole, then make it mechanized. Do it everywhere, like at least, because imagine going 4 or 5 years without tap flowing through your pipes. And I'm talking about myself. I'm sure so many people have faced similar issues. Every 6 to 8 weeks, I have to spend like 350 Ghana cedis, 350 Ghana cedis or 400 cedis on water. You can imagine. People are actually suffering with this particular problem. So just sink boreholes around. Do the feasibility studies. The place is suitable. Sink the borehole. Make it mechanized. People will use it. At least it will reduce the burden some people have to face. Senior high school students, like I mentioned earlier, within Ghana school, they are dependent on, a borehole. They are dependent on the Ghana school dam. Do something about it. Do the feasibility studies. If you can sink boreholes there, do it and give them the opportunity. At least it will be better than going to fetch water from a dam. And mind you, these are students. Imagine after class, you go to class from 7 till 2, then you come back. You have to do housework, you have to do work in the dormitory, then you have to walk from your school to another, the whole distance to fetch water with a gallon, do all this work, and at night or in the evening, you have to now go and, you have to attend preps again. This is a whole lot of work. So I believe that, look, these district assemblies should have done something. They could have done something, and they should have done something about this particular problem. And I believe that they could prioritize, some of these senior high schools and most of these rural areas, because their situation there is too dire. Yes. God being so wonderful again, we have a new government in, and the finance minister, I think he also saw what I saw. The inefficiencies and the inefficient and incompetence of these district assemblies. So after allocating these huge sums of money, and before I get to this, I forgot something. Yes. So Tamale needs about Tamale needs close to 90,000 cubic meters of water in a day. That's what Tamale needs, but the current water supply is about 45 million liters, or 45,000 cubic meters of water. But due to inefficiencies, production is about 30,000 cubic meters in a day. And when I talk about inefficiency, I'm talking about the fact that we still have machines from 1972. Machines from 1972 still pumping water. 1972 was about 53 years ago. And we expect them to work as efficient as possible. this is this is something that I can't even comprehend, because imagine you were born in 1972, you are not going to be as strong as you are or as you were then. So Tamale needs 90,000, production is 45,000, and because of inefficiencies, we have about 30,000 in a day to supply a population of millions of people. Like, this is very terrible. So another issue has to do with the machine. So that's why I said the issue is a multifaceted issue. We have production vis-a-vis population, then we have inefficiencies. All this has now compounded to the problem we have right now. So let me go back to where I was, and this has to do with the district assemblies. So our finance minister, having allocated or having disbursed these monies to the district assemblies, he released a policy document on how these monies should be used, like a guideline. And as part of that, they said 10% of all funds should be used for provision of potable water. So they said 10% of all funds that are given to each district assembly should be used for issues of water, provision of potable water. Saying that, that's just what I was saying. A minimum of 10 boreholes for rural assemblies. So, I'm not even the only person saying it. The finance minister is saying it. Do your feasibility studies. Provide boreholes for people that can, for places that they need it and places that is suitable. Provide the boreholes for them. So at least in the interim, whilst provisions are still made for a more serious or a more large water project to support the entire population, we still can reduce some of the challenges. We can make some of these things easy. Students do not have to carry buckets of water, go long distance, or carry buckets, go for long distance to fetch water and come back, bath and attend class. This is terrible, seriously. So a humble appeal to our leaders, politicians, chiefs, imams, pastors, everyone, government appointees. This particular matter should be made a priority. This particular matter should not be left. Tamale and Yendi water projects, they shouldn't do what the past administration did to us. President Mahama promised us a reset. We can't have some things like same things as before. You can't come and cut sword and leave. And for 5 years, not even a single block has been laid. So it's an appeal to our people. They should do something about this particular issue. If not, it's going to be bad. The situation will only get worse and worse. So today, I decided to bring this particular matter for us to talk about it and see if you have any comments to make. You can make it in the comment section, and you can subscribe and like and share. We'll be talking about more of these issues that we face on this particular podcast. Yes, and thank you to the best iPhone dealer you can find on the whole wide world. Kabore iPhones. He provides us with this venue so we can do our shooting. So if you need all iPhones and Apple accessories, you can contact Kabore iPhones. With that too, just drop a comment there. We'll get back to you through the comment section. Or if you want to find us, our location is at it's on the Waterworks Road. Just get there, then ask anyone, they'll point you in the right direction.